as now as anticipated, we have our guest Alex Ohai, leadership development specialist, to join us on the conversation on early exposure to beauty enhancers. A very sensitive, important conversation that we're having on tea or coffee this morning. Now, Alex Ohai is an experienced business leader in human resources, driving organizational outcomes through aligning people, strategy, and resources while developing a strong leadership team to drive and develop and deliver business results. She is an advocate for gender equality and female empowerment through providing women with the knowledge, resources, and supports that enable them give their best back to the world around them. A self-actualizing coach, she uses her platform to help women who are going through life transitional phases and find courage to make empowered decisions. Beautiful. Nice to meet you, Alex.
Same here, Adi. Good morning. Nice to be
morning.
here.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, right?
Compliments of the season.
Same to you. It's a great way to start the new year.
Actually, it is. All right,
Good
so let's get into the conversation, right? Early exposure of children to beauty products, to beauty enhancers. I want to start on understanding first of all, what is your opinion on actually exposing children early to beauty enhancers?
All right. So before I came in, I was listening to the conversation that you were having with Yemisi.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting because you were able to pull out a lot of experiences, examples of children being exposed to beauty enhancers. First of all, what are beauty enhancers? Beauty enhancers, from the terms, are the things that you use, right, to enhance your beauty, to take what you have and take it a notch higher, right? Just level it up. But then the reason, why are we doing these things? What is the need to use a beauty enhancer? A lot of times it may just be because you feel you want to look a certain part, you want to play a certain part at a particular point in time.
Right.
For kids, however, they are still in a formative phase of their lives where they are still trying to form a distinction between who they are and how they perceive the world around them. The challenge then for children when you expose them to beauty enhancers is that you truncate that journey for a child. It is important, first of all, that a person comes to a place where they understand their personality, who they are, they build a strong sense of self-confidence, of self-esteem, before you begin to use anything as a beauty enhancer. But then when you put it on children, you tend to create the perception that this is what you need to do to be acceptable. This is how you need to look for the world to accept you and make space for you. You deny the child the opportunity to build their self-confidence naturally.
Right.
So in that light, I would say it is better not to expose a child to beauty enhancers.
All right.
So let's just go from there.
Yeah, so it's like what I'm deriving from what you said is a question on values.
Okay.
I'm asking. It's a question on values, right? It's a value. It's like what value system is being operated in the house of this child.
Exactly.
Right? Because you saying that the child needs this to feel good, or needs this, particular product to be the better version of themselves from an early stage. You're placing the child's values on material objects.
On the external.
Yeah, on the external.
On the external, whatever it is. It could be material things, it could be makeup, it could be clothes, it could be devices and gadgets. It's important for children to understand that who you are as a person, your value, your worth, first of all, comes from the inside. It's something that you work on the inside. You need to get that clear first before you then begin to use anything else as a prop or to build up on what you have discovered already.
Right. Okay. So how early or how old would it be for a child to start, for instance, applying makeup, or for a child to start understanding, these values, as you have stated, that you don't need these external things to feel better? How early or how old can a child begin to understand these things, in your opinion?
Yeah, so we've seen the internet has given us access to so much information, like everything is out there. And I've seen videos, I think yesterday, 2 days ago, I was watching a video of a little girl who had gotten her finger stuck in the door, and she was in between crying and not too sure whether she should cry or make a fuss. And then her mother tells her to stop, don't cry.
Yeah.
Now say I'm strong. And you know, she's crying. She said, I'm strong, I'm beautiful, I can do this. And she said all of that. And eventually she came away, you know what, this is pain, but I can deal with it.
Yeah.
It's never too early to begin to introduce children to the importance of building a healthy self-esteem. Like you start from when you have the baby in your arms. But when it comes to allowing children access to makeup now, because I think it's important for us to draw a distinction, because as you've said, it's about the values, it's about the perception you have around it. In the North, for example, so I grew up in the North, and my mother didn't allow us access to makeup. The maximum we had was lip gloss, actually Vaseline, because, well, you're in the North, we have harsh harmattans. When it gets dry, you will have very painful cracked lips if you're not using Vaseline on your lips. So everybody, boys, girls, everybody used Vaseline on their lips. But that was as far as it got, right? Or sometimes we'll take maybe her nail polish and then just paint our little finger just to see how it looked, but nothing more than that. However, I grew up around lots of Hausa kids, right? You would see, and from babies, you would see mothers put tiro in their children's eyes. So tiro is local eyeliner, because they believe that it would make the child's eyes white. If I brought that child to Lagos, you would say, oh, this child has makeup on. But no, it's tiro for a purpose. It wasn't from the angle of beauty enhancement. It was, I just want this child to have white eyes. Or during Salah, you would see girls with lele, henna, on their hands and on their feet. It was part of the costume.
Young girl child.
Young girls. You would see children that are still young enough to run around naked with waist beads. They would have ropes and ropes of waist beads, like 12 on their... You know, when I came to Lagos, it was a shock to me when I found out that the perception around waist beads was totally different. And I was like, no, everybody uses waist beads. And they're like, no, actually you don't. Actually, you don't even talk about it in polite society. I'm like, okay.
It's like a fetish thing.
Exactly.
In Lagos.
But it wasn't like that in the North. So you can't, when we talk about makeup, you can't take away the cultural aspect of it as well. For those people, it was just culture. There wasn't it wasn't an idea of beauty enhancement per se. It was just, this is how we like to show up. This is how we like to turn up.
I really like this angle that you've taken, you know, mentioning the case study of makeup, quote unquote, as practiced in the northern cultures, some northern cultures, amongst the Hausa people, because it now begs the question of how do we now define makeup? Do you understand? Do we define makeup? Is there an objective definition for what we know as makeup, or is there a cultural definition of what we know as makeup? What do you think?
Interesting question. I think makeup will be anything that you are applying on your face, on your body, to enhance what is already there. And generally, it's not always a bad thing. Where do you draw the line is where that makeup, those things you are putting on, are to drive a particular sense of self. That cannot be what you are driving for a child. So the woman who had the entire photo shoot for her 5-year-old, I don't know where the mother was coming from, but if you are going to be portraying the child with that amount of makeup, portraying her as an adult, what value are you teaching this child? What do you want her to take away from this entire experience? Children are basically sponges. They just take in whatever you are throwing in their direction. They just absorb it. If put on this makeup, you want to dress me in a bikini and put me beside wine bottles, and I just take it.
Fun because
she's having fun. Well. She believes that she's in a safe space.
With mom.
Whatever her mom is saying is fine. But at the end of the day, what is the value that the child is taking away from this? So again, it's not so much the makeup per se, but the value. And then, like I think Yamisi said earlier, if you are going to dress up a child like this, and the child ends up looking like, what, a 20-year-old, when the child begins to draw unwanted attention, then you wonder why. Now, this is not, and I need to be careful with this, because I do not want to excuse anyone's behavior. An adult definitely shouldn't be making overtures as a child. right? You
Right.
have a responsibility for your behavior. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But if you are going to present yourself, or you're going to allow a child present themselves as an adult, when an adult comes in and says, oh, my wife, our wife, start talking to your 5-year-old and calling her our wife. Start, wanting to tap her behind and stuff like that, because you are presenting her as an adult. Then you also have to ask yourself, is there something that you are doing that is encouraging this kind of behavior? So yes, we can say, oh, adults are responsible for their behavior, but what are you doing to encourage this kind of attention?
Actually.
You have to be mindful of that as well.
Very interesting. I love that. All right. So before we're going to get into some of our views from the net, right?
All
And
right.
looking at some of the opinions of viewers on
All
this
right.
conversation. Before we get into that, there's a particular case study that we found very interesting, and that is the case study of a 3-year-old girl named Nathanan, a Thai young girl who is now 12-year-old. She started learning makeup online and all these things from 3-year-old, and now she's like a global sensation, as a 12-year-old.
Yes.
So, I really like this case study because it's like a wild card in this conversation.
Okay.
It's a form of wild card because we're seeing we gathered 5 case studies.
Yes.
And the previous 4 were of parents actually defending and justify their actions for dolling up their children. But in this particular case, we're seeing a child who actually learned it as a vocational skill and took it further to have a career out of it.
Yes.
So, now before you came on, I was talking about the changing sphere of the labor market and how children, are now a part of the labor market as young as 10, 12-year-old, which I find very interesting.
Okay.
I'm from the 90s, so it's very weird for me, but taking that particular case study into conversation, like, is there something that's can we see the same thing in our culture, or can the same perspective be viewed from our Nigerian culture?
So you're from the 90s, I'm from the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's a bit, we've had to learn. We've had to learn so many things. We've had to unlearn and then relearn things. So I have a 10-year-old.
Right.
And her perception of life is so different.
Right.
As I look at her say something, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, my mother would have reset me. My mother would have reset me if I tried that.
Right.
However, we cannot allow the lens of times that have passed determine what we are going to allow our children have access to, and I use that carefully, in this time. Because children are more aware. Children are learning at an exponential level compared to what we learned, because they have access to so much.
A lot of information.
They have access to a lot of information. So if you then have a child who is 10 years old and says, oh, I would like to start doing this particular thing because I feel I have a flair for it and I want to create something around it and then sell it to people and make money. My question to you as a parent who is trying to hold that child back is, why are you trying to hold that child back? What are you afraid is going to happen? What is your major concern there? If your child is learning this thing and his child is doing it with your support as a parent, what exactly are you afraid is going to happen? Because let me just go back to the example you gave, the Thai girl with the makeup. I would like to believe that and I suppose it's not a wild card because we have lots of examples like that.
Yeah.
Whether it's in makeup, whether it's in IT, whether it's in hairdressing, we have lots of children that are doing so much. I believe that what parents need to do is to create a safe space with the right value systems that encourage a child to find self-expression, but in a way that doesn't let them lose their childhood, but still gain as much as they can from the experiences that they have attracted to themselves. That's what I think.
Yeah, I was going to get into that because, I feel like that's where a balance, where parents need to learn a balance. Like,
Exactly.
you know, the labor market has changed, and you
Yes.
do want, if a child has a talent that can tap into the labor market from an early stage, why not encourage the child? But
Yes.
then, you know, the child still needs to remain a child, right? Okay, so now let's have a look at some of the views from the net,
Okay.
opinions on this particular topic from viewers. Now, the question we're asking is, in your opinion, should children be allowed to use beauty enhancers? Peter from Ibadan this morning is saying, nah, not so good. Right from time, I like my girls natural. It's even worse when it's used to alter or mask one's natural appearance. Teach your girls to be natural and embrace their beauty without being artificial. I know of a girl that couldn't do without makeup. It got so bad that in the university, she would steal her friend's makeup. At first, we thought she was kleptomaniac, but later it dawned on us that she was only obsessed with makeup and can't go a day without it. After many questions were thrown at her, it was then we discovered that right from when she was a child, she has been using makeup. At this point, we blamed her parents for allowing her do so, and even more so, letting it become an obsession for her. I think this comment kind of highlights what you were saying earlier, you know, with exposing children, with the dangers of exposing children too early to makeup, and then them taking it as a very you know, as a very strong value system for themselves on how they actually present themselves to the world.
Yeah. So just to say, first of all,
I think I know it. I think I know what's all right, please.
okay. What I want to say, first of all, it's not about you, Peter.
Yeah.
It's not about you. So whether you like your ladies natural or you like them dolled up, it's personal preference. Okay,
That's business.
That's
Yeah.
well, I didn't say that, but that's up to him.
Yeah.
There are ladies that are totally fine using makeup, and ladies that will not use it, and it's also their choice.
And there are
right?
men who like their women that way. So it's
Okay.
not about the men anyway,
Exactly.
right?
It's
Yes.
about how we show up. And then if with my makeup you think this is not the woman for me, well, it's fine, then move on to the next.
Yeah.
Right? Find the one that works for you.
Yeah.
However, but then like we said,
Yeah.
if the girl has an issue around makeup, yes, we can definitely trace it back to what the values have been right from the beginning. And how can we help her then from that point in time to realize that, you know, beauty is inherent. While I was thinking about this topic, I looked at the story of Kechi, what's her surname now? I can't remember her surname.
Okay.
The lady, the survivor from the Sosoliso
Okay,
air crash.
yes, yes.
You know, if you go online
Yes.
and you check, you will not find one picture of her with makeup on.
Yes.
You think if there's anyone who you would say has a need to use makeup, you would think it would be her. You feel there's so much that needs to be covered up, smoothened out, filled in. She should have a lot of makeup on, but you will never find one picture of her with makeup on. What does that tell us? What does that say about this need for, you know, always dolling ourselves up? Beauty is inherent. If you're going to focus your perception of beauty on the external, it can be taken. One accident, one mishap, and then everything goes. And then when it goes, then what do you do? What do you then? You fall apart. You hear stories of girls young girls who become suicidal because they have eczema, vitiligo, and they're like, I can't continue with life any
Sorry,
longer.
just to add context, Kechi Okuchi
Yes,
is the
Okuchi.
lady.
Yes,
is
that's
the
her.
name that you
That's
were-
her. Exactly. Yeah. So we need to find how to. It must be balanced for the children.
Yeah. All right. So the next comment, Faith from Ogun State. Faith is saying, I don't think there's a hard and fast appropriate age. It depends on you, your child, and what is considered the norm for where you live. In a society where it is allowed, why not? Plus, looking at this time and age, makeup is seen as a norm. I also believe people can develop a career in it. Aside, it helps some children's self-esteem. If they are battling with one insecurity or the other, I see no reason why they can't cover up their insecurities and build confidence gradually.
So a few things that I picked up from what she said. One, it depends on the culture where you are growing, but still you cannot allow your values be based on what the culture is doing.
Or what's going on around
What
you.
is going on around you, because then if you say that, then if you're in a society where children are married off at 15, then would you say you marry your child off at 15? No, you must have your value system that you live by. That being said, if you go in other parts of the world using nail polish on kids to go to school, it's not a big deal. Children do it and it's acceptable, right? So that's on one hand. The second point she made concerning, there was something she said, could you please read that again?
Okay, so I also believe that people can develop a career in it. Yeah.
And then she's, no, it was that, but she also said something about self-esteem.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
That you cover up.
It helps some children's self-esteem if they are battling with one insecurity or the other.
Okay. When you are struggling with self-esteem, whether as a child or as an adult, you don't cover up your problem. The problem is still there. You don't use money to cover it up. You don't use makeup. You don't dull it with drinks. You don't dull it with drugs. You don't dull it. You deal with your issues and you fix them, right? If you don't do that, you would, once that numbing device is taken away, the problem is still there. If a child has self-esteem issues, help them deal with it. Of course, sometimes it may be really bad, and some things might help. Like in the case of the woman, I think Yemisi gave an example of a woman whose child lost her hair because of cancer. So in that case, yeah, it's something, it's drastic for that child. So yes, give her a wig, but you must reinforce that your self-esteem is not because of the wig. You still don't have hair. Right? So you have the wig on, but you still don't have hair. Your self-esteem comes from understanding and valuing your worth as a person. That is what children must know.
Right. Okay. So, now in your experience as someone who, in your work in empowering women and as a leadership development specialist, right, in working with women, do you ever come across cases where women, are dealing with some of these issues, with perspectives on beauty, whether it's external or internal, and how do you encourage them to look more inward than focus more on the external things?
Interesting question. So there's a researcher whose work I love a lot. Her name is Brené Brown, and I would encourage people to go and look into the research she's done. She researches shame. And shame, basically how she defines shame is the perception that there is something wrong with me. I am incomplete as I am. Now, based on that, she went out to ask women, what are the primary triggers of shame? For women, the two top things that trigger shame for women, one is around how we look, and two is about motherhood, whether you are a mother or not. So if you are a mother, you have only one child, how come? How come you don't have two children? You have two children. Why is the gap between them so much? Why didn't you have them closer together? How do you manage them with work? Do you abandon them with your nanny? Or maybe I'm a woman who doesn't want to have kids and a woman that doesn't want to have children. Then we have a whole other conversation around that. When it comes to how we look, are you slim enough? Are you big enough? Is your body this way? Is your body that way? Those are the two primary areas where women suffer shame. The sense that we are not enough. It is prevalent everywhere. It's prevalent no matter where you go in the world. It is on those two things you would always find women with issues.
Right.
How do you get women though to look inward? It's not easy, but it starts with realizing that, first of all, the world, your community around you, doesn't determine who you are. You are first and foremost, primarily, your own responsibility. And so, yes, I have a husband, I have a family who I love and respect, but my perception of self doesn't come from them. It comes from me, first of all, and how I see myself, how I appreciate and love myself. And the things about myself, realizing that no one is perfect. And I don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love and belonging and acceptance. As I am enough. Right. Once you start teaching women to reinforce this knowledge within themselves and begin to say, you know what, this thing I have been doing, who have I been doing it for? For myself or for someone else? And then cut away the things that you have been doing for other people and then realize that this thing I've been doing is okay and is enough. And the people who cannot accept me with just, on a scale of 1 to 10, I choose to be at a 2, then maybe I don't need you in my life. Maybe you shouldn't have been there in the first place. Maybe I'd let you in and you shouldn't have come in. Right? I choose to be myself and I'm going to hold on to this perception, this identity. That is where my strength actually lies.
Yeah.
That is the work that we do with women.
That is very beautiful. So just it reiterates the researcher, what's the name? And it's
Brene Brown.
And the work is called Shame.
Yeah, she
All
works.
right.
She's a shame researcher.
All right. So for viewers at home who want to get into this reading, yeah. All right. So just to now to extend the conversation, in your opinion, what beauty products do you think children shouldn't be exposed to? Now, I'm asking this question understanding that your background growing up in the north and you seeing, sorry, remind me.
Tiro.
Tiro, yeah. Tiro on the eyes, henna, and all of this. Now, in your opinion and in your experience, as a woman, as a leadership development specialist, what beauty products do you think children should stay away from?
Generally, almost everything, really, honestly. Because
Okay.
first of all, a lot of these things are chemical based.
Yes, yes.
They are chemical based, and you are feeding young skin that should just be allowed to breathe
Yeah.
with all sorts of things. You want to put fillers and things that will clog up the pores, and you
Right.
can't breathe, and then you wonder why you're breaking out with skin issues earlier than
Yeah.
usual. So first of all, as much as possible, just avoid makeup in general. But I think the question would then be, what are the things that probably are safe if a child must use anything? My mother said lip gloss is the safe direction to go, and I think I turned out okay.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I do at home, even
Right.
with my daughter. You have your chapet, use it for your lips so your lips don't break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let us synthesize. Let us synthesize parents. Let us synthesize educators. Let us synthesize. The community at
Yeah.
large. This conversation has been very tricky because there is no objective stance on it. Earlier on, I was saying that the only objective stance you can place on a conversation like this is the health risk, as you've just mentioned, with the chemicals that are that in some of these products, exposing them to young scalp and young skin can be dangerous, right? Now, so what I would like you to do is just synthesize, viewers at home, teachers, parents, whatever the case may be, on, on just what to think about, the dangers and maybe the advantages of exposing their children early to makeup, to beauty enhancers. So that is your camera when you're ready.
All right, so the message is this. With kids, we have to be careful. We have the responsibility to the children around us to ensure that we are building people who are children or who will become adults that are balanced and ready to face what life will bring them. Life will have its ups and downs, and you want to ensure that children are strong enough to be able to manage whatever comes their ways. When we talk about beauty enhancers, makeup, we need to be careful that to whatever extent you believe a child needs to be exposed to this, and really I don't think anybody can draw a line for anyone else. It has to be on personal, what you have experienced and what your choice is. But please understand that more important than the makeup or whatever else it is that you believe your child needs to know, more important is the value system upon which everything else is going to grow, right? The value system is fundamental, is most important. Ensure that we are raising children with a strong sense of self-confidence, a strong sense of what we call bodyfidence, right? Confidence in how I look on the outside. You want to raise children with a good sense of self-esteem. Realizing that makeup is not what makes you as a person. Makeup can be a good addition, right? But it is not what makes you as a person. And it's important that you manage what you're exposed, and then also think about it from the point of view of protecting young skin. Should they be allowed to use all this makeup on their body at this point in time? How would it affect them as they grow older? So those are a few things that I think we should be thinking about.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you very much for joining us on the
Yes.
conversation this morning. You are a breath of fresh air to speak to. I have to say, please wait till coffee calls you back and come and vibe with us. It's
I
been a
would love
pleasure
to be
having
back.
you in the studio.
Thank you so
with
much,
us.
Ade.